I also caught up with Mr. C.P. Gurnani, who's MD and CEO at Tech Mahindra, on what their involvement is in case of blockchain, what are the kind of funding that they are looking into, and what is their sense on the road ahead when it comes to this very important technology, especially for the Indian markets. First of all, your interest in blockchain. I mean, clearly, India is looking at it with a lot of hope, but there are challenges, which happens with all the opportunities. What is your sense on where the sector stands right now?
You know, it's interesting that to us, blockchain was, one of those technologies that we were invested in, but it was not something I would call as the only technology or our, flag bearer technology. And the reality is that the amount of interest, and it's just evident. I mean, when my chairman Anand Mahindra tweeted about India having a own peer-to-peer social media platform which is secure, there were about 3,600 people who suggested blockchain. There were tens of thousands of people who applauded him, but there were 3,600 people who suggested blockchain. The technology, in terms of maturity, is moved beyond the first use case, which was a Bitcoin. Now people have recognized it's a distributed ledger technology.
That's right.
And that distributed ledger technology can be applied to hundreds of use cases.
Yeah.
And for us, Tech Mahindra is clearly now in the forefront. I set up my Center of Excellence in Hyderabad, which is where we work with different platforms all over the world. And so it is not only limited to 1101, and 1101 is where we have some economic interest. 1101 is where we will become the founding member of the, the blockchain district of Telangana.
So what is 1101 into, and how do you see its growth going forward from here?
So 1101, I mean, for want of better words, I would say it's a blockchain foundation. It's like a blockchain operating system. And it is not the first one of the block. And ultimately 1101 will succeed because the number of people who have shown interest clearly shows that. I mean, you notice that about 20-25 MOUs got signed around 1101 today. So that is number one reason I believe it will succeed. And number two is clearly that any operating system to implement requires resources. It requires intellectual capital, and that intellectual capital we have all joined together to bring in not only the Tech Mahindra prowesses but the industry prowess, and also be able to set up an academy for blockchain.
Will the technologies companies, the way they work right now, function right now, is it going to be very different in next 5 to 10 years? Because that is what everybody seems to be talking about now.
Clearly different companies will adopt different strategies. One company is buying IPR of the legacy systems, and they believe that is how they will combine all the IP legacies and maybe build another system. The another one like us, which is essentially banking on what is called TechM Next. That means we will create platforms. On the platforms we will be able to provide process as a service. That means I will invest upfront like you invest when you're in manufacturing into a factory to create a facility, and from that facility I will be charging on pay-per-use.
Okay.
To me, for pay-per-use technologies, I will end up using Blair. Blockchain makes economic sense and clearly technological sense, because as I said, the world over GDPR is becoming a battle cry. You have seen Europe launch it. You have seen India release their draft policy. So I think, blockchain will get the impetus.
So when you look at various reports or updates that blockchain has to provide, various governments, state governments, countries seem to be adopting it, wanting to adopt it in various spheres, forms and levels, etc. As compared to that, where do you see India as we stand?
I think India has a huge opportunity and practically in every part. I mean, today Mr. Amitabh Kant talked about the backlog on the courts and him admitting that 45% of that is because of land disputes. I mean, think about it, that you tried solving a land ownership issue, but you're actually solving your processes and systems within the government.
What are TechM plans going forward in this space essentially?
TechM currently has invested about 150 people in a competency. I've invested...
Monetary-wise, what
Monetary, I've invested in a platform called Trade IX. Again, it is for peer-to-peer lending, business-to-business lending. We are invested in, the 1101. So TechM Next is all about working with some of the established players, working with the new age companies, and making Tech Mahindra more relevant and anticipating our customer needs. So I'm excited about TechM Next. I'm excited about the 1101 platform.